So I'm sure we are live. Hey everybody, how you doing? Happy
I
Thursday.
don't think so, Tim. I just went to the profile and I don't think we're live yet. This is why the reason why it's live is that we had a chance with the countdown to get everything going.
Okay.
Um,
So
some of them are now done propagating and are showing as though they're there. Okay, so we're up now on your profile. Cool. Um, and let's see if we're up on your public profile, your public figure. Yep, we're up there too. Okay, cool. And let's see how we're doing in terms of what about your YouTube? Yeah, YouTube looks like it's up and running. All right. Well, cool. I think we're now officially live everywhere.
okay, good, very good. All right. So Joshua, welcome back. What are we going to talk about today? Part two, huh?
Yeah. We opened up a great conversation last what you call it last
Tuesday.
Tuesday. Yeah, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And so I'm just trying to get my windows situated so that I can see when comments start coming in
Okay, cool.
and go to them.
All right. So, everybody, welcome back. Joshua and I have been talking about mental malware and how it sabotages our ability to make things happen, whether that's growing your business or finding new clients or, you know, creating greater market share or just creating sustainability in what you do. You know, a lot of times it can feel like it's all over the place and there's no continuity, and that can happen a lot of times because of the mental malware that's running in our mind that we don't realize is there. And you know, we talked a lot about the common mistakes that we make about trying to add new programs or new tools or new strategies or more tech. But if you don't get rid of the malware, then it won't allow any of the programs that you acquire to work the way that you want them to. You've probably seen people who it seems like they have uh, strategies that they're using, and it's like, how in the world is that working? Well, often it's because the mental malware isn't there, right? So people are confident, people are following through, people are trusting themselves, people are excited about showing up and adding value. They're not being held back by self-doubt or imposter syndrome or procrastination or conflicts that keep us from playing all in, and instead we hold back, right? And so when you see people that are making things happen and you're thinking, well, I have a better program than them, how come they're successful and I'm not, or they're at that level and I'm not? It's probably because they don't have the same kind of mental malware that you have, or they've found a way to get rid of it. And so Joshua and I have a lot of experience helping companies of one. So if you're just a single entrepreneur or you have a team, or I've worked with companies that had, you know, hundreds and thousands of employees, and we have found that the biggest obstacles are not the tech and the software and the tools and the strategies. The biggest obstacles for most people are the limiting beliefs that are inside that are wreaking havoc in our unconscious mind, and that's what we are calling mental malware. So we thought we would open up another discussion today and help people to recognize if they have any mental malware that's in place, and then see what we can do to start removing that, and so that you are able to start making more progress on your goals.
Well said. Well said.
Yeah.
I think what also might be interesting, Tim, to dig down on, depending on who we have for participants
Mm-hmm.
here. But I think it might be useful to discuss how some of the things that we're doing currently, because we're unaware of the malware that's kind of running amok, and I'd like to start talking more specifically in terms of real life situations, but
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's really useful to see, and that the part about that people tend to forget is that without curing the mental malware, in other words, without addressing that, at least to a degree, and being able to bring it under control, what ends up happening is you will get to a point with whatever you're doing that's positive in terms of getting you the results that you want to get or moving you towards something, is that's going to start working against you. And the very things that you're doing to look to try to fix your deficiencies, so to speak, and like we can talk in terms of building a business, or we can talk in terms of just overall satisfaction in a professional career or personal career. But I think it would be useful now to get into some specific examples of what can happen where it's perfectly logical, if the malware wasn't there, to be doing these things, but in fact it is there, and how that ends up making things worse when you continue to just kind of pound on it and install new programs or try to attempt new upgrades to your operating system without understanding or without addressing and if not curing, at least addressing the true cause of the problem, the root cause of the problem. Because sometimes, like I said, if you're unaware of it, then the very things that you think are important to be doing, that would be important if that was really the case, are actually going to put you more struggle, more suffering, more procrastination, more fear, more frustration, more confusion, etc., etc., etc.
Well, and that happens because if you're working really hard and you're putting yourself out there and it's not working, you feel like you're not getting the results that you want. Instead of saying, I wonder if there's some mental malware in there that's sabotaging me, or I'm wondering if maybe I just need to get some feedback and adjust my approach. Instead, what we focus on is what's wrong with me. I must not be smart enough. I must not be talented enough. Maybe I'm not one of those lucky people that's going to make it. And then that bums us out. And then we lose our mojo. And then we spend money on ads, and because we're not really clear on what we're doing as far as setting up a campaign, it feels like we're just throwing money out there because somebody said you have to spend this much money on Facebook ads every day and this much money on YouTube ads every day and so we keep throwing money out there and we're not getting a return, and so then it makes us shy about marketing. I was told one time the last thing you cut is your marketing budget when you're in a tough situation, but that's usually the very first thing that people cut is their marketing budget, because they get gun shy. I'm afraid that I'm going to throw away money, or that I'm just wasting money, or that it's not going to work out anyway. And it just continues to eat away at our confidence and our drive and our self-belief. And so that's when, you're talking, Joshua, about how it compounds problems and creates more problems that weren't there before. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, and I'm talking about even deeper than that, Tim, because while that goes on for sure, there in very specific scenarios, it can be like you're just going to be pounding yourself in the head. And I'll give you a specific example from my life. Okay, so like it took me 32 years to become a millionaire for the first time. And I started pursuing it literally at the age of 5, selling candy on the streets of New York. And trying to and that was my whole reasoning. Like I wanted to become a millionaire because in my mind, freedom equaled millionaire. I don't know where that came from, but that's was the laydown for me. So I tried everything, or I seemingly tried everything. And then I finally realized that I'm not going to be able to, buy a book, Think and Grow Rich, put it under my pillow, or read it 100 times, and then that alone is going to make me rich, right? So I finally started taking massive action. And I started, putting things into play. And a lot of it was because my girlfriend at the time, who is now my wife, said to me, like when we first started dating, she saw all of these business boxes, these banker boxes. I mean, like full, probably 7 or 8 or 10 of them, full of business ideas and business structures that I had been working on in one way, shape, or form or another. And some of them were like 1% done. Some of them were like 95% done, and various things in between. And she just said to me, she said, why don't you just pick one and finish that? And so I gave myself permission to fail. And that's what literally what I called it. I said, I'm gonna complete on this no matter what I do, no matter what it looks like. I'm gonna pick one like she suggested, and I'm gonna see it through to the end. And whether it works or it doesn't work, I don't care, right? And so that worked. That worked great. And lo and behold, because of all the groundwork that I did leading up to that, all of the different programs that I had tried, up to that point, it was over $65,000 that I had invested in self-help programs and marketing and business, entrepreneurial training and marketing training and all of those things. And so, I mean, it wasn't like I wasn't doing things, but I was still scared, like the woman that you spoke of. I don't know whether it was Tuesday, Monday, or Friday, or maybe it was all three. I don't remember now. Mm-hmm. But that she was just afraid to pull the trigger. That was me, right? Mm-hmm. And so I finally, I took my wife's advice, or my girlfriend's advice at the time, and I went to work on it. And I said to myself, no matter what happens, I said, what does happen doesn't matter. What does matter is that I get to celebrate the fact that I actually did something from beginning to end, and I can celebrate doing that and feel good about doing that. So that created closure and momentum for me. Mm-hmm. And lo and behold, it worked. And I literally named that permission. I gave myself permission to fail, because that was what was going on. I needed to say, like, and that's where I also started to develop the idea around process goals versus outcome goals, where a process goal is that I'm just going to do what I said I'm going to do in the time that I said I'm going to do it, and I'm going to see it through, and I'm going to celebrate the process of doing it, and I don't care what the outcome is until I build up that momentum and habit. So
that's huge. What you just said. I mean, that's a big deal, Joshua, because so many people start heading down this path that they've created for themselves, and then they're not getting the result that they think they should. And so they start going off the path, or they stop, right? That's why, I've interviewed so many of the top performers and high achievers in the world, and they always say the same thing. You just got to keep persisting. Persistence is really the key, and you've said that as well. And so I think that that's huge that you are sharing to focus so much on your process and what you're going to commit to and how you're going to follow through on that, instead of constantly worrying about, is it working? Is it working?
Yeah, for sure. And the persistence, sure. But I also realized, and this is where some of the malware will start to make sense. So within 18 months of making that decision, of deciding that I was going to see it through no matter hell or high water, it was going to make it, it was time to see what was going to happen. Within 18 months of that decision, I was a cash millionaire. And not
what
just...
What does that mean, a cash millionaire?
Well, there was somebody that used to call it a centime millionaire, where my earnings, I was liquid for $1 million. And it wasn't tied up in equity in my business. It wasn't net worth of my business and my real estate holdings or whatever. It was that I had $1 million, dollars in like cash money.
Yeah. Let me ask you something else, because you said so many great things. What did you mean when you said I gave myself permission to fail? That
what I said earlier, which is that whether it works, quote unquote, works, or it doesn't work, I'm going to take the pressure off myself of having to have it look a certain way, having to like be a millionaire by Friday, or am I building the right business that's going to make me a millionaire? Well, I didn't know if I was or I wasn't, but I'll tell you what, making the decision that led me 18 months down the road to becoming a millionaire was not, I repeat, was not the same business that I started with. It led me there, and I would never have been able to get there had I not, seen the opportunities and create it. But I also would not have let myself get into motion if I was so attached to it looking a certain way and being successful and have to have it perfect and all of the things that we attach to it. But that's so then persistence was my theme song. Massive action and persistence was my theme song. And because that's what made me a millionaire for the first time. So those were the tools that I relied on. And so what ended up happening over the next 10 years from age 32 to 42 is I made and lost tens of millions of dollars multiple times, up and down, up and down, up and down, until, about 2009, when I realized that, like, I'm miserable, like, this sucks. And what I'm getting at is that I did not realize that persistence alone, persistence for the sake of persistence, being busy for the sake of being busy, driving forward for the sake of driving forward, trying to like none of that was fulfilling to me. And I didn't realize that that was the very thing that I was fighting against. Right. And so that's a prime example, at least from my life, of like all of those tools worked for me. And so why did it stop working? It's not like I didn't enjoy my life during that time, but something was missing or whatever. And what it was is I was looking for something to cure the emptiness or to complete me or to fix me, or basically to make me feel better than I was feeling. And I couldn't get that satisfaction from anything that I was doing in business, from any relationship that I had with my wife and my daughter and the friends and the respect and all of the material things. None of that filled the gap, even though I thought it would. So for those 10 years, it was like, all right, what's the next figure that I can get to? What's the next number? Whether it's in dollars and cents or new clients that I can bring on, or that I, new book sales that I can do for, one particular product or book or author. What's the next thing that I can do? Not ever bothering to stop and take an inventory of like, where are we going? Like, not just like, set a goal, achieve a goal, set a goal, achieve a goal, visualize that goal, recite it, put it on your mirror, repeat it back a million times. Okay, but what if you chose the wrong goal? Where are you going? And so that's where I think, I believe it was Stephen Covey that first popularized this, but like, you're working so hard to climb that ladder, but you never bother to notice whether the ladder is leaning against the right building or not. And so for me, like the way the brilliance that I see around the malware, and really why I wanted to drive this point home, is that if you continue to do the things that were working up to that point, it served me great, but it wasn't working to this, anymore. Well, why not? Well, there was some other stuff that I wasn't addressing that I needed to address. And will those things work for me now and again? Yes. They do now, because now I'm clear. Now when I take the massive action, I know where I'm going and I'm clear about it. And I'm also hopefully tic-tacking along the way and doing the course corrections along the way to see, is my ladder leaning up against the right building? Am I actually, climbing to the right foundation? And so I mean that's kind of like a major example, like still overarching in life, but like all of those things that you said before, the little details could be examples of how they did work, or they are working, or they did work for you up to a point, but then they stopped working. And like, why did they stop working? But you don't realize that they stopped working, so you double down on them. Well, it's the new hack, it's the new technique. I gotta invest in the latest, greatest technology or hack, or the Facebook algorithm shifted again, and the smackdown, and oh my God, now Apple's the iOS 14 is there, so now I've got to completely shift my entire. That's the reason why I'm not having the success that I want to have. When in fact, if you're clear about where you're going, not to say that those things aren't valid, they are, and they require a shift. But you can see them clearly for what they are, and the people that are like, I mean, I would venture to say that the way that you currently do business, Tim, that none of the iOS 14 is going to matter 1 ounce to you. Now, could it in the future if you want to enhance it? But right now, it doesn't matter because that's not how you're getting the word out. That's not where the growth is coming from. That's not how you're spreading the word, and it doesn't affect you one bit. But I mean, like, you got to be able to see that. You got to be able to see it for what it is. And so, I mean, I'm just saying that it's not always just cut and dry in terms of beating yourself up. Yeah, that's the obvious one, and I think we've done enough work on ourselves that we know that we're doing that we're feeling bad about ourselves. We might not know why we're doing it, and we might not, we might be throwing a pity party, and and we're real good at knocking the crap out of ourselves, and at the same time, the things that we're trying to do to get relief from that when we're knocking the crap out of ourselves is to double down on the stuff that we're going to be knocking the crap out of ourselves even more, because now we're going to be working even harder. And when that snapback occurs, because that was the thing for me, is like, I couldn't take a break in that 10-year period. I had to keep pushing, because the instant that I took a break, if I was in a down cycle or an up cycle, it was just a matter of time before it all came crashing down. Well, what kind of a real business is that, right? But the point is that it was the snapback, and the periods of the snapback between the snapbacks were getting smaller and smaller and smaller. Meaning that, like, at first it was like, it took me 32 years to become a millionaire for the first time, and I didn't, experience a significant setback for another 2 years or so. Then it was like a year and a half, 6 months, and the timeline started getting shorter and shorter, because I was snapping back, but I was doing all the same things. But I, sheer will, determination, persistence, I'm going to power my way through it. And that was still, it was taking all that I could give from it, the amount of energy that I had to give to it. And it just was like wearing me out. But I didn't realize it because I didn't know anything. So then I doubled down again. And I'd have a little bit of success for a little bit of time. And it wasn't until I launched something, and it was the first time that I launched something in a long time, that it didn't go nearly as well as I wanted it to go. And it wasn't like, there was no reason why it should have been that hard, right? It was just an offshoot, a variation of what I've been doing in different ways, shapes, or forms. And early indications it was phenomenal. But there was no reason for me to, it just wasn't working because I wasn't working. So anyway, I know I just went on a Shafi log. That's a monologue by Shafi.
Well, it's really good. I mean, again, you've said so many powerful things. So sometimes our mental malware shows up as self-doubt and procrastination and beating up on ourselves and being our own worst critic and holding back and not pulling the trigger. Other times it doesn't show up that way. Other times you can feel like you're on fire and I'm totally confident and I totally believe in myself because you've trained yourself to be that hero, or you've trained yourself to be that sage. You've trained yourself to be resilient and push through when other people would quit. You're still charging forward. It's like this entrepreneurial battle cry where we have trained ourselves to be these online soldiers. Yeah. And yet when it isn't working, or when we've had success but now it's not going the way we wanted to, or when we're having a hard time letting go or pivoting or adjusting because what we've done in the past worked for us, and now we don't want to let it go because we're afraid that, that's how I became successful. And so, having resistance or, just not making the kind of money that you want to make, it might show up for you in that way. It might show up in how you are using your time. As you said, that a lot of times we might be running really hard, but in the wrong direction, and don't even realize it. And so, I remember hearing somewhere, I forget where, but someone said, "How are you really spending your time?" And I was like, "What time?" Because I was always going 1,000 miles an hour. And so I actually stopped and wrote down all the ways where I was spending my time. And before I started writing down ways that I was spending my time, I thought, where should I be spending my time? And in my mind, it was I should be spending 80% of my time talking with other people. 80% of my time I should be connecting with people, coaching people, leading teams, doing keynotes, coaching people. I should be 80% of my time networking and being around other people. So I wrote down everything that I was doing, and it was newsletters and social media posts and website updates and SEO and podcasts, and I mean all these activities that eat up our time, right? All the stuff that we think we have to do in order to sell our products or services. And when I wrote it all down, I realized that I was spending 80% of my time on my laptop by myself producing materials. And that really shocked me at one level. At another level, I wasn't surprised because I wasn't getting the results that I wanted. And when I actually took the time to stop and look at why not, it's because I was spending 80% of my time on the wrong activities. And wrong for me. Those might be the right activities for somebody else, but for me, I was supposed to be in front of people, connecting with people, not writing another newsletter, not writing another blog post, not making another video.
Yeah.
So then I dug a little deeper and I thought, all right, why aren't I spending 80% of my time in front of people? And that's when I started finding my own mental malware, right? That's when I started realizing that, oh my goodness, I'm not connecting with more people because I'm afraid of the disappointment or not knowing who to call. And then, worried that even if I did reach out, they weren't going to take my call. So many people complain about cold calling, but we don't even make warm, fuzzy calls half the time because people don't want to call. It feels safer emotionally to just be on your laptop creating than to actually be with people connecting. And I thought that was a biggie too. So you're right. We have to change that mental malware that's underneath all of it and get rid of it, or it won't matter what you spend your time doing. It just won't produce the results that you want.
Yeah. I mean, there's a million ways to skin the cat, right? And to say it. But like one of the things for me that in the beginning was that I realized I was, on that first journey that the tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars over that 10-year period, my focus was, are you playing not to lose or are you playing to win? And that worked, right? Like, am I in it to win it? Like, and to me, like, I don't like the idea of a win-lose, mindset, but I like the idea of, are you playing defensively? Like, let me just do this so that I can at least say that I'm doing something and get in the game, but it's not really going to work. Like, but I'm gonna give it my old college try, but I'm really not, because the old college try is the try. It's not I'm gonna make this happen. Now, there's been plenty of times where I say, I'm gonna make this happen. I'm in it to win it. I'm playing to win when that particular thing doesn't work for me. But I pivot and you zig and zag and you adapt. But then there was a whole nother thing where it was like the playing not to lose. It was like, all right, well, I can adjust to anything. Like, I'll set a goal, and now I'm gonna, I'll just play to win to get that goal. And if I'm not at the goal yet, then I either need the tic tac to get there, or I'm somehow playing defensively and I need to address that, and then I'll get there. When I never bothered to look at, why do I want to get there? Why is that important to me? Is it, and what am I expecting? What's the feelings that I'm expecting to encounter by getting there? It kind of ties into that 5-part formula that you shared the other day. Like, what am I hoping is going to happen when I achieve that milestone? Because the one thing that I had in common that whole 10-year process, I had fun when I was partying, but the journey there sucked. I hated every minute of it. It was like, it's hard work, and that's just the way it is. You're supposed to, put your shoulder in the grindstone and, quit whining and get in there and do it. And you don't know how to do something, you figure it out. Quit your belly aching, pull on your big boy panties, and get in the game again. And so the point is that stopped working for me, even though I was continuing to do that. And the very act of then continuing to do that in different things, like, just compounded the problem and made it worse. And so I started drinking. The days when I would go to the office, and I had an office in my house and a separate office, and it started out where I would go to the coffee shop to write in the morning, and because that was my productive time, and I love to write in coffee shops. That's how I built all my businesses. But it just so happened that my favorite coffee shop was just outside the door from the beach bar, the that I like to be at. So, it started happening that, at first I'll just go over, have myself, it's time for lunch, and I'll just have a drink with lunch. And then, that'll loosen me up because that'll make me more creative so I can go back and go in there and finish up. And then I never went back to the, eventually I never would go back into the coffee shop to write. Then it got earlier that I would go. As soon as they opened up the bar, I'd be out there myself, and I was a fixture there. I was like Norm, and everybody loved me, and I was well known, and blah blah blah, and I tipped well, and the whole 9 yards, and it was gorgeous, Florida palm trees and the boats in the yacht basin and all of this, and it was just awesome, right? So that part I enjoyed, but what I didn't realize that I was doing was that I was trying to numb myself out. I was trying to distract myself. And meanwhile, that's the point that I was still trying to build that last business. And I was trying to do all those things. And then it got to the point where I wasn't even showing up at the office. I wasn't even I wasn't even kidding myself. Like I would sit down to write and I'd get a cup of coffee and I'd be like, I don't feel like writing. I need a break. I deserve a break. I've been working hard my whole life. I earned this. And not that that's not true, but then the overwhelming, the voices in my head said that, if you stop, you're never going to pick it back up again. Like if it stops, it's going to hit you in the back of the head and then you're going to be starting all over from zero, which is a certain amount of truth to that. But, again, I didn't realize that I was, winning the rat race, but living like a rat, and so I was winning it. Man, I was winning, to quote the Charlie Sheen of the Times, right? But I mean, so, really. Yeah. Well, and the point is that those things evolve, right? And at the end of the day, if I had known what I was really trying to search for, now I'm not begrudging the experiences that I had, it's amazing to be able to pay cash for anything I wanted, to fly in private jets, to, rent a, Necker Island and hang out with Richard Branson for for 5 days straight when, and a bunch of other high-powered entrepreneurs. I don't begrudge any of that. And also, though, I'm very clear now that had I couldn't have gotten to where I am any other way than the path that I took, because that's how I got here. But I made it so much harder on myself than it needed to be. And it was through 12 years of trial and error to really start to see what we're, encapsulating here and boiling down into, into these live stream sessions, as well as, your program, your 8-week program there. I mean, that's the advantage, is that nobody needs to spend 12 years or, however long it takes them to go through it and learn it through the mud, the blood, and the flood, and the bloody noses and knees and getting banged up by life, when they can collapse time frames and we can get it done, at least done enough that you can then continue to make progress beyond the 8 weeks on your own, and know that not wonder, know that you're moving in the right direction.
Yeah. I mean, that's a powerful story, Joshua. And just real quick, I'm noticed we do have several people who have joined us. So just some shout outs. Hey, Heidi, how are you? And Catherine is with us. And Cassandra's back.
Up,
hey, good to see you, Cassandra. And Alex is back. Awesome. Donna. Uh, is it Yanlilo?
Maxalicious. Huh?
Yeah, Yanlilo, I believe.
Oh,
That's a cool name. I like that. Kawira, please pardon me if I mess up your name. So, uh, Nafe and hi Heidi. All right, we have a lot of wonderful people here. So, if you have any questions or anything's resonating with you, please share that. Let us know. Um, Alex said that that was a good book title, Joshua, Permission to Fail. Good
thank you.
catch on
It
that,
is a
Alex.
chapter in many of my books, actually.
Yeah, yeah. So, so if you have questions, please ask away, or if you have thoughts or your own thoughts that you want to share. But I think it's really important because
Where did I'm not seeing the comments come in now. Now I'm in the spot that you were the other week, where
oh,
they're not
I'm
seeming
not
to
even
come in.
sure where I am.
Let
So
me
they're in
refresh.
my Facebook. Uh-oh, and now they're
I just
gone.
refreshed
There
and
they
I'm
are.
not seeing any. Huh. I'm seeing Max on my profile. Max, what's up, baby?
Yeah, they're in my Facebook profiles where I'm seeing it. So,
It's
but we
funny
have
because anyway.
usually that story is where then I would enter the picture, Joshua, because I've had people come to me that share that story. Many times I've had people who are multimillionaires that would walk into my office and they were either still had the level of success or material wealth, but were just so unhappy,
Mm,
so angry, so disconnected, still so mistrusting of other people,
yeah.
or they had found a way to lose the money,
Mm,
and drank it away or gambled it away or drugged it away, or just bad business decisions, or sometimes not by their own actions. They had a business partner that wiped them out or ripped them off or things like that. But they would come in because they were obviously distraught and unhappy and stressed. And so, what do you do with that situation? Most people say, I want to figure out how to find my fire again, or I want to find my mojo, or I want to, figure out how to spark my business again. And early in my coaching career, I thought that's exactly what you would do. But that's not what I was observing.
mm,
When they would come in, I would just take them through my one belief away method. I wasn't calling it that at the time, but I would take them through my experience where we would figure out where is what's the issue that's really holding you back. And people consistently would go back to when they were 5 years old,
mm.
7 years old, 12 years old.
Now, was this
Something
when
that
you had him in state or under
yeah. I
hypnosis?
would get them into state. I would use, hypnosis, which really is just getting relaxed and going within and using your imagination. It's not like it's portrayed on TV where it's some magical altered trance that, someone can put you into and now you're under their spell. That is not how it's portrayed in
Mm,
shows in Las Vegas or on Hollywood movies, but that is not the case. I mean, I'm a foremost expert on hypnotism. I've been using it for 3 decades, for 15,000 sessions plus that I facilitated. That is not what happens. Now, yes, some people do experience phenomenon, but that's because of how their mind is wired, not because of the hypnosis. Right? Everybody has a different experience because of how they are wired in their mind.
mm.
So the hypnosis isn't what's magical. Your mind is what's magical. And so this is just a way of accessing your mind and really your unconscious mind. And so people would consistently in that state go back to childhood memories. And
Can
it
I
was
ask you
those
just one
childhood beliefs.
question? Because it's just
Sure.
I don't want to break your flow too much, but
That's okay.
you said what was it? Oh, you'd access the mind. Is that
Mhm.
also? I mean, like is that a direct bypass then, bypassing any of the malware to just get right into the where it's a clean space?
It takes you back to the moment people got infected by the malware.
Hmm.
It's like the precise moment they downloaded it. And it's like, oh, so yeah, in a way, that malware wasn't there right before. A minute before, a second before, that malware wasn't there. People would have peace or feel good about themselves or believe that the world was a magical place or that they were loved or that they were enough. we're not born with limiting beliefs. We're really not born with any beliefs, right? And so it's just through our experiences and then how we interpret experiences from the point of view of a child. And then, of course, the beliefs and mental malware that the adults that are raising us or that are around us growing up, their mental malware is contagious and infects us as well, right? Sure. And so all of a sudden we have all this this moment where we go from, I'm worthy to, oh, I'm not worthy. I'm good enough to, oh, I'm not good enough. I'm safe to, oh, I am not safe. And it's in that moment that the malware is planted, and everything that happens from that moment forward is then filtered through that lens, right? Now you have the mental malware lens, or let's call it the self-limiting belief, or let's call it the fear, right? And now you are filtering everything else that you go through that lens of fear. And that impacts every other experience you have. So in Joshua, you talk about how mental malware keeps populating more and more malware and more problems, like a cancer that keeps splitting and multiplying and destroying and attacking itself. That's what mental malware does. That's what these fearful beliefs do inside of our unconscious mind. So many people say, I feel the way that I feel because of all these experiences, all these references that I've had. And I say, that's possible, but more likely you had those kinds of experiences because the malware was there in the beginning of it all. And because you had this belief that things don't work out for me anyway, doesn't matter if I study, I'm not smart, I'm not going to get a good grade anyway. If I have that belief, then I don't study, because why? And then I get a bad grade. See, I told you so. But it's because you didn't study, because you had that belief in the first place. If you had a belief that I'm smart, then you would feel more confident about studying, and you would have a different set of references. So when people say, well, you don't know, I don't believe in this, or I don't believe in you, or I don't believe in myself because of my experiences, that's actually not accurate. It's because of the malware that was there in the beginning.
Amen. Well said.
And people have any thoughts on that? Sissel, you have any thoughts on that? Catherine?
Max Alicious shared something that a childhood memory of his, that he was adopted at 5 days old, no mama's milk for days. And then he put in, oh joy. And now I happen to know Max a little bit personally. We've chatted several times one-on-one. And I just reminded him that it's only that way because he says so. Like, the oh joy is now his judgment about that scenario, and that can become an excuse to stay there and to spin out further. And that's what the malware is designed to do, is to spin you out even further. Or you could say, oh yeah, like that's just the story. And the only place that exists, Max, is in your mind. It's a memory. That's it. It doesn't exist anymore, but it's very real for you only because you say so. And you could equally decide to just observe it. And like you shifted that one time that we spoke a while back, that's within your power. And yeah, I know. And now he's quoting the funny stuff, the get the issue out of your tissue. And that's all great. The problem that I have with all those platitudes and the typical sayings is that it becomes rote, and we no longer really stop and observe. How does that, what's going on? Can I choose a different response? Can I pause between the stimulus and the response? Because what we're not aware of right now is that we're just like the cat who gets his tail run over or stepped on, and it immediately goes, meow. Well, that's not, we think we're responding, but we're not. We're automatically reacting. And if you can take a pause in between the stimulus, i.e. somebody stepping on your tail or some story or some memory, that's a stimulus. a memory that you're reliving rather than just observing and letting go of. The only reason that memory still is around and serving you is because you're fighting against it. That's the only way that it stays around, is because you're judging it, you're judging yourself, you're judging the situation, you're judging the people within it. Whatever that is, you've got that comparison compounding game going on. And this and that, and then you're reliving that, and then you're playing that tape forward, and so you've got a million different renditions of that one experience that you don't even really fully remember. Like at 5 days old, you remember it because of how you've played it over in your head and what you've told yourself about it. Just like the same story that I shared with you, Max, and I don't know if I ever shared this with you, Tim, but like when I was 2 months old and my mother died, 2 months to the day from the day that I was born to the day that she passed away, she died. And then my father turned to IV drug use and sent me off to live with my grandparents. Now, I had a lot of love around me. So, like, all those stories, so this story that I'm just about to tell you is part of my identity because I've been telling it so long, and that's the way I relive it, right? But it doesn't have to be, right? So, anyway, get the issues out of your tissues, and all of those things are fun. I get to do this is another one. It's good in the beginning, like when you say, oh, I have to do this, and then you shift yourself and you say, okay, I get to do this. I choose to do this. Great. But when that becomes rote now also, you might as well be saying the same thing, I have to, because your energy behind it, even though you're saying I get to, your energy is still the same now as that heaviness of I have to, or, I don't really want to, but I'm supposed to play disciplined, and I know that, I have to have delayed gratification, so I'm going to make it, so I get to do this now. I get to act like I'm happy about it, but in reality, shift mode. Exactly right, Max. Exactly right. And it's so simple.
Well, it's like, that's great. I agree with everything you said, that, it's like we're trying to talk ourselves into it, and you're trying to use willpower and a positive attitude, but sometimes that's like throwing black dirt over a patch of weeds. You're covering the weeds. But
it's
they're
clear.
Gonna keep
I
growing.
Can't see it anymore. My rust is. I can't see the rust underneath the metal there.
The roller. That's right. I'll just put some more paint over there, but that's not going to solve the problem. In fact, it locks the moisture in and creates more rust. Right? Creates more problems. Creates more weeds. So as far as the adoption thing, it reminded me of a story and I've had several people that have come to me over the years who parents had died early, or people had been abandoned, or people had been adopted. And it's a unique experience for everyone, but the malware tends to be the same. And so I had someone who came to see me one time, and he was having a really tough time in his marriage and in his business. And he thought that if he could just handle the stress, then everything would be okay. So we come in and we start working together, and he goes back to a time when he was very young, and he had also, turns out, was adopted, and he had a belief buried deep in his mind that I must not be lovable enough because my parents gave me away. And I've heard people say that too about when they had lost parents, that I'm so angry at myself because I must not have been good enough for my mom or my dad to live and stick around to raise me. Now, of course, that when you're an adult and you hear that, you're like, no, that's not what happened at all. But when you're a little kid or you're an infant, and you're not dealing with logic, you're dealing with pure emotion. And so if we have a belief deep down inside that I'm not lovable, right, or I'm not worthy of love, from my main source of love, of the woman who brought me into this world, then I'm not going to be good enough for anyone. Yeah. And that played out in every area of his life. So how did we change that? We shifted, as you were saying, Joshua, we shifted the interpretation, right? And he began to realize that he had heard a little bit about his actual mother, and she was in a really bad place and was into drugs and ended up passing away. And so what he ended up deciding was that his mom gave him the best gift of love that she could possibly give him by allowing someone else to raise him. It was a completely different way of looking at it.
Yeah.
And I remember the tears were streaming down his face because he could finally look at his birth mom, because he had two moms, right? But he looked at his birth mom as someone who actually loved him enough to give him away, and how painful that had to have been for her. But she loved him so much that she did it anyway for him. And it was such a different reframe. It was a different way of looking at it, that it allowed him to start to let go of that anger and that hurt.
Yeah.
And it was very powerful. And it totally changed his relationship with himself, with his wife, and in his business.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And it's a prime example of, like, the situation was the situation. It just is, right? There's no positive or negative to the situation. It just is what it is. The energy, the emotion, the feelings that we have comes from our decision about what that means about it. And as soon as you can start to see that, that's power.
Yeah. And you didn't make the decision. But that's something we got to reinforce, that you didn't actively choose that interpretation. Your
right, which is why you're having such a hard
you.
time seeing it, right? But
Right,
as soon as you
right.
can see it, then all I'm trying to do is like the marvel of, like, once you see that it was the definition, and that you're in charge of that definition. And this is not a blame game, because that's another form of judgment. If you blame yourself, if you blame, like, oh, it's my fault that this happened. No, that's another way of interpreting the same thing, but that isn't what the situation is. So you can have it mean whatever you want it to mean. So why not make up an empowering story like you had your client do?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And the answer is because people don't even know that story is running, and then they don't know that they have the power to be able to change that story. Or they'll try to change it using their conscious mind instead of their emotional mind, and then they don't really believe it. Yeah, they think, well, I'm just pacifying myself, or but they're just dumping more dirt on the weeds.
Right, and because they haven't yet seen that it's what's causing the root of their uneasiness about it is their mental movie that they have about whatever it is.
Or felt the emotional shift. When you feel the emotional shift, and all of a sudden you go from feeling heavy and sick to light and more at ease, that really confirms in our mind that, oh, this new way of looking at it is closer to the truth.
Sure.
They can feel it.
Sure. Yeah, it's phenomenal. I just I don't know who said this first, and I think I probably looked it up one point in time to try to find out where it originated from. But, like, what distinguishes us from everything else in the world is our ability to think about thought. And that is profound, because it's not not the situation, although we've, over time, because of it being when we couldn't see it for what it was, and when when it got inflicted at an early age and got conditioned into us, we decided that the situation was the result of how we were feeling. That's why we felt constrained. That's why we felt controlled. That's why we felt uncertain. That's why we felt unlovable or unloved, or whatever. And then it became about, the transference became about who you are and the mental image that we now have placed for ourselves. And so when we talk about our self-esteem or whatever, that is our definition or our identity of how we view ourselves. And that's so malleable, but we don't believe it's malleable at all until we do this kind of work. And once you start to see that, wow, like, it's because of the things that are coming up and the way that I'm reacting to my reactions. It's even like a double, like a and that's like double the malware, right? Where it's like it divides on itself, and divides on itself. So pretty soon you're judging the reaction, and it's not you that you're judging, it's the situation, but it's so far down through so many different layers that you don't see the root of it is still just the it all comes back to the same stuff. And for me, that's why I wanted to really kind of see if we could drive home the what you are doing that would make logical sense if the malware wasn't there to get the results that you want to get, is making your job worse. It's causing more pain than it's having the opposite effect, but we don't see that because the malware has divided on itself, and we've got now this, the judgment upon the judgment upon the judgment, and that's a fact. That's an absolute, that's just how it was. That I don't have a choice in the matter. I just react. Así soy yo. That's how I am.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. I mean, I'm confident enough after so many years of experience with this that people do not know what their real mental malware is. They just don't, because after thousands and thousands of sessions, hour after hour after hour for years and years and years,
right,
people were constantly going to stuff that they did not realize, that they did not recognize. They're like, how can I prepare for our session? And I just start laughing. I'm like, you can't prepare for this because your mind's going to take you somewhere, and you're going to be like, wow, I had no idea that was there. Or I had no idea I was going to be so emotional. Or I never would have thought it was this. I thought maybe it was that. Or I went to that memory before, but this time was different because of what we did while we were there and how we shifted it and what we did to change it. And it was the first time that we released the emotion that was stuck in that moment as well. Very, very powerful. So I'm very, very convinced that we really do not know where the deepest mental malware is. If I have someone that comes in and I have them, they're 34 years old, and I have them go back to the original event or situation that created that malware, and they go back to 32 years old, I already know that's not the real place. It almost always is when they were little, under the age of 12. And so I'll say, all right, well, 30, maybe 30 years old, let's put a pin in there. And now notice, did you ever feel that feeling before the age of 30? And then all of a sudden they're 16. Did you ever feel it before then? All of a sudden now they're 7. And then did you feel it before then? No. Well, now I know that we found our original, malware infection point, right? And that's where I realized, okay, that's where we need to do the work. Then we can go back and revisit 16 and 30 and 32. But often when we solve it at the source, it's like all the other versions of ourselves.
Yeah,
it heals up on its own.
Yeah.
You don't have to address all the symptoms, the procrastination or the self-doubt or the fear of not following through or it's just not there anymore.
Right.
Suddenly people they just go. So, and they're enjoying it. You talked about
and that's the difference. And and you can take the exact same actions now that you were taking before and get entirely different results and enjoy the journey. The old cliche about, smell the roses along the way and enjoy it. That all is possible now. And you're doing, on the surface, you're doing nothing different. And you aren't. I mean, the action journey isn't anything different, but who you are is different. Because you've shifted. It's so profound. And this is the part, this is why, I am so excited about this time in age and in this time and space continuum, because people are now open to, when I first started to, I used to sell marketing and entrepreneurial materials, but really what I was selling was personal development wrapped in a teaching platform of marketing and entrepreneurial and business building and business models and all of that. But I always included the personal development side of it, because I know from my own experiences and from working with clients and students, and just that you can only grow as much as your business can only grow, your success can only grow as much as you grow personally. But the thing why I'm so excited now is that back in, I guess when I first started really putting this stuff out there, it was 2003, around there. People didn't want to hear that. They didn't want to hear any of that stuff. So I had to sneak it in the back door because I knew that that's what they, if I didn't, they were really going to be in a world of hurt, and their chances of success were going to be little to none. But so I had to lead with all the hype and all the typical stuff, or I thought I did, to get the clients that I wanted to get, and to work with them and their businesses. And what I'm so excited about in 2021 is that we can lead. There's enough awareness now that there's enough people that are saying, well, yeah, let me work on this, because if I can work on this, and this doesn't seem to have anything to do with success in financial terms. This doesn't seem to have anything to do with how to have how to become a best-selling author. This doesn't seem to be how I'm going to fill up my practice with, more clients than I can handle. But it's everything to do with that, right? And we're getting to the point, I don't know if we're there quite yet, where we can lead with this being the focal point out front and center, and that it's easy to accept now, or for more people, it's easier to accept that if I can work on this and how I show up in this one thing, it will spider out and affect, how I do one thing is how I do everything. And they're starting to really get that. Even if they don't experience it regularly, they can start to appreciate it in a way that they can at least have the faith that, all right, I'm going to go along with this and see how it works out. And then based upon results, they say, well, that worked out well, so I'm going to continue to go along on faith until I start to choose to believe that that's the path that's right for me. So I'm just real excited now, because I really believe, especially in this day and age where, look, like everybody that's ever come to you for career, for goal achievement type stuff, and for procrastination from seemingly from a business oriented, professional oriented standpoint. If you fix this, then all of a sudden all areas of their life start to improve. And this is the juice. I mean, this is the true lasting way for ongoing success in my estimation. And it's just a very cool time. It's a little bit harder because I don't want to lead personally. I don't want to lead with, the goal achievement side of it, because I want people coming in with the right expectations so that they know what we're going to be working on. Yeah, can you get all that stuff? Can you make $1 million as a result of doing this? Will you? I don't know whether you will or not. Can you? Absolutely. Because I promise you that whatever is stopping you in this stuff is the same stuff that's showing up, just in different ways that you're not aware of because of the malware in other areas of your life. So,
yeah, the goal should never be to make $1 million anyway. Make the goal serve 1 million people. And then
I did that for a while too. That didn't. I mean, that was what I was. That's always what I was working towards. It was like, I want to have 1 million new clients that I can, transform their life and all of that. But sooner or later, it became about the numbers, and it was not about the work.
Yeah.
For me,
and
when I can just focus it, like, it doesn't matter to me now. Like, if I can get to 1 million people of transformation, and I've done it before in mass marketing and direct response marketing and stuff like that, but it's about the one person or the next person or the next 10 people or and working there, and then, can that spider out? And the answer is yes.
Absolutely. So, I can't remember the actual specific years, but from let's just say 2015 to 2020, I provided consulting for a company. They had 130 people. When I started with them, they were making $75 million a year. And they were having conflicts, and they were having people problems, and they were having high turnover, and their employee satisfaction survey scores were 46%. And they were talented people, but they were just very cutthroat, right? Very 100% sales commission. That made up the majority of they were a catalog sales company.
You eat what you kill.
That's exactly right. And it was cutthroat, right? So I go in there. So from 2015 to 2020, I actually I started off by providing leadership programs every 2 weeks, and then eventually shifted to monthly for 5 years. Right. So I provided a huge amount of emotional intelligence training. Most of it I had to make up on my own because they don't have leadership books with a whole bunch of experiences and exercises. And the team building games with the shoestring, are lame. And so I created a huge amount of content. So by the time the president of that company actually left to go take another position somewhere else, he got recruited, and my time with that company was up. They were at $136 million, right? So they almost doubled their revenue in that 5-year period. And I remember asking the president of that company, his name is Troy, and I said, Troy, what do you think that this kind of success was? What do you attribute it to? And he said, I'd attribute it to what you did. I attribute it to what we did together, the training, the personal development training. He said, you didn't just help us become a better company, you made us better people.
Yeah.
And so, we didn't say that, well, we increased our marketing and we increased our numbers with our, Facebook conversion. All that happened, right? We didn't really upgrade their technology very much. We upgraded the people technology. We kept upgrading the people. To this day, I 100% believe that if every person in your company gets rid of one limiting belief, you will have exponential growth for the next several years.
Without
right? If everybody's got rid of one self-limiting belief. And so again, if you're a company of one, which I have been for, my whole life, or if you are a company of, hundreds or thousands, that still applies. And so this is very powerful. So if you're into personal development, cool. If you're not into that and you just want the strategies that are going to make you successful, these are the strategies that are going to make you successful. Going into that mind of yours and figuring out what is getting in your way. And when you do that, the results are amazing. So Joshua and I talked a lot about, what to call this program and how to describe it to people, our 8-week program that we have coming up. And it's a very fancy, eloquent name. It's like Lord of the Rings that Joshua came up with our
maybe a little bit too much.
Our Obeos Accelerated Mastery Fellowship, but it really is an extraordinary 8-week experience that we're taking people through, and it's just going to be amazing. And we're going to keep doing this. It's not a one-time. If you don't sign up, then you're missing out, because we're not using that scarcity technique. We're tired of the sleazy sales marketing stuff. We just want to be authentic. So we're going to be running these classes for the next year. We've committed, right? So for the next year, we're going to run these 8-week experiences and then build on them. And the first 8-week experience goes to the mental malware that we have, and it eliminates it, because we can't even begin to talk about. And Joshua is, one of the smartest internet marketers on the planet today. And so, but we're not going to be focusing on that, because that's not, and you've heard him say it over and over, that is not where you have your biggest return. It's getting rid of the mental malware that's sabotaging our efforts. So that's where we're going to start.
You just reminded me of something that when I got off on a tangent that I wanted to say, is that I would venture to say that every single person watching this or will watch this, all of your clients, all of you, the people that will ever become your client, the people that follow you, that like you, I would venture to say they already have more than enough information to have all of the marketing success that they ever want to have online or not. The solution is not to become smarter. The solution is not to consume another piece of information that's going to be the answer for you, because you've been doing that, and you've I promise you that you've got sufficient amount. And even with the amount that you have, if you're deficient in any area, you can find that like that with the internet being what it is today. So the information, like when I first started online in 97, the information and getting that delivered and understanding how all that worked, that was really critically important. And it's not that, like it's not that there aren't new things going on and there aren't new things that you can learn. I'm not saying that at all, but I'm saying like to have the core success that you already want to have that is still eluding you. And I don't care whether you make, $10 million a year net in your pocket or $10,000 a year or whatever. There, you have the tools right now to get to your next level from a intellectual knowledge standpoint, from a learning standpoint. The question is how you execute it, and freeing yourself up so that you can do it in with a clear heart.
Yeah, well said. Well said. So it's pretty cool. You want to talk about our program just for a few minutes? Not because we're trying to enroll you into it, although you can if you like, but because it's so cool how we're doing it. Sure. I just think that it's so awesome how we're putting this together, and so it's been cool how you've taken all your experience, Joshua, and I've taken all mine, and we've been able to blend it in a way that is going to produce something really special. So with this program that's coming up, there's 5 components of this that we've put together that we feel is essential, right? And of course, the first component that we feel had to happen is what we call the live malware auto scans, right? Where we essentially are going to take the group of people in the class that we have. We're going to make sure that everybody is a good fit for that particular 8-week experience. If you're not, we'll get you in the next 8-week experience. And then we're going to teach everybody how to be a malware expert and find it and get rid of it in ourselves and in others, so that we avoid the guru paradox, which Joshua coined. You want to explain what the guru paradox is?
Yeah, basically the guru paradox is when you go to an experience like Tim's workshops, for example, and you have a transformative experience in the room with Tim and all the other participants that are there, and it's life-changing. And then as soon as Tim is no longer going home with you, that fades within 24 to 48 hours, and you start to feel as though you can't do it without the guru. And there are some people that build that in purposefully because they want the comeback. They're like legal drug dealers, right? Where they want the comeback. And thank you, Troy, by the way, for sharing it in your group. I'm excited that you're doing that. And there's the comeback, but for a lot of us, it's not that we are intentionally doing that. We just don't know any other way, or we haven't been able to figure it out yet. Like, how do you let that go with you? So this is why I keep on talking about collapsing time frames, because of the experiential nature of what we're doing and the facilitated nature of what we're doing, is that it's not about one leader facilitating the experience or showing you how to do it, and then you credit them mentally or otherwise, even though there's no way you could have a positive shift or an experience without it coming from you. Sure, Tim might be facilitating it, but if you then give him credit for that shift, and it's because of Tim, that's the guru paradox. And with the practical application sessions, where Tim is super brilliant, and I just offered one little tweak to it, is he's brilliant at doing these live interactions with people in a group setting. And all I said is, like, let's make that the focus, where the people in the group, that even if they're not the ones on the that you're working with directly, that they start to consume it and digest it, not just learn something, but like they learn how to actually apply it, so they're the star, and so that they are in the experience. So there's like a division between church and state, where church is for example, well, I don't know which is which, but let's just say that there's the discovery zone, which everybody loves. They want to learn new stuff, the discovery experiences, and well, that's there. You're going to learn some new processes and some new insights, but then you get to actually practice it, try it, take it to the real world, so that you can do it yourself. And soon as we go through this in an 8-week period back and forth between those two primary things. Now, the 5 parts that Tim mentioned are all designed to enhance all of this. But that's the basic primary. Whereas I would venture to say that 99% of the things that you've experienced before have been focused in primarily on that great experience of the discovery of the, oh, that's amazing. Oh, that's incredible. And there, and that's great. And that can work. But again, if you're not dealing with the malware, then, how do you apply it? How do you adapt it? How do you twist it around? How do you mold the clay for your specific needs? Because even though Tim is an absolute master at what he does, when he goes to apply it to each individual, and even though he's got a methodology, and even though he knows where it's going to go and what the universal things are, it is completely different, and he's got to just slightly tweak it for each individual based upon where they're at. And as soon as people start to experience that tweaking, and he's there live without a net showing you how to tweak it, how to adapt it, how to consume it, how to play with the clay, so to speak, and make something new of it, then you can then take that same joy, that same experience, and share it yourself and do it for yourself. And there's the difference, is that what he does automatically after, let's face it, I mean, anybody that's done 15,000 individual, consult sessions and therapy sessions with people, knows what the hell they're doing. They've got a methodology down. They've got it, like the 10,000 hours, he's left that behind in the dust. Because in order to perform 15,000 individual consults plus, and I'm sure it's probably way over that number now, but whatever, in order to do that, the 10,000 hours that he had to put in to get to that point, and then what he's continuing to do. So he does a lot of things automatically that if you're not there in an experiential setting, in a group setting, where you see the adaptation for you and then for somebody else, and then you can see that whole experience, that's where the magic happens, is when you see what he's doing, and all of a sudden it ain't no big whoop. You don't have to be Tim and have 10,000 hours of experience and 15,000 hours. You don't have to be that expert to make this work in your life. And as a matter of fact, it's a handicap for him now, because he has this experience that becomes a typical excuse. Well, sure, you could do this, Tim. Sure, like I could do it with you, but I need you there. No. So to take it beyond that, that's, the other 3 parts of the process are designed to enhance both of those experiences back and forth, so that you can truly own this stuff and live it, as opposed to just so that you can go from seeker to haver, from seeker to finder, and actually live the life that you want to live, instead of that perpetual pursuit of the life that you'd like to live.
Yeah. Well said. Well said. So you get the experience of being able to watch other people have breakthroughs and aha moments, and then that speeds up your awareness, because it's easier to see when somebody else is sabotaging themselves, or when someone else has mental malware. You're like, oh my goodness, it's obvious, but it's not obvious when you're in the middle of it, right? And so being able to watch others have those experiences. And Josh was right. There's so many little nuances, little word choices, the way somebody says something that my brain's just tuned into from doing so many sessions, that I pick it up immediately, right? Immediately, I'm like, okay, I know where we're at here, or what the meaning is, or what the malware is. And so you'll get to learn how to pick that up as well, and the basic strategies and structure that's going to help you to be able to get rid of this in yourself and in others. I mean, it's really exciting. So that's a very cool experience. It's almost like a training or certification program tucked inside of a coaching program, which is very different. It's a
certification model for yourself.
Yeah,
so that you can live it.
Yeah, so you can end up certified like me.
Well, certified for yourself, which is all that matters right now, right? Like,
That's
I mean,
exactly
if
right.
you want to do it as a career, well, that's downstream. But like, if you're certified for yourself, that you're qualified to do this yourself in yourself and live it, man, that's awesome.
Yeah, because learning it and watching it and experiencing it is all amazing, and then if you want to take it to the next level, then you do it. The best way to master something is to teach it, right? So if we're doing an experience and then all of a sudden you go into a breakout room with a few of your partners, right, your buddies, and then you guys are working on each other and having those experiences, that's when you really grow. That's when you pick up new insights. That's when you go home, or when it's over, you leave with the confidence because you have practiced and put it into work, or put it into your specific situation. A lot of times when you go to seminars, it's very general information that's supposed to kind of apply to everybody. And then you go home and then you're like, I'm not sure how to make this work for my situation. And then it stops right there. And so the other part of this is making sure that we are addressing what's going on for your specific situation. Right. And then not just myself or not just Joshua, but everybody in the group is putting all our brains together to be able to figure out how to make what you're learning work in your life right now, which is also something very unusual and special and unique. And so, and then of course, on top of all of that, we also have, the course materials and the resources that you're going to have in between our sessions, which are pretty standard. People are always giving you materials, but I'm not going to load you up with it. There's
just enough for what you need, right?
Yeah, there's an old idea that, and I was taught this many years ago, that you have to give people tons of material to keep them busy, so that if they're busy enough through the program and they don't get the results that they want, then they can't blame you because all the material was there. So you just got to keep them busy. And I thought, that sucks.
Boy, that's like a contradiction in terms.
I never liked that idea, right? And don't give anybody checklists. Don't give anybody a step-by-step. They have to figure it all on their own. And I'm like, well, that sucks too, because it might take forever if you do it that way. And so, there's just so much out there that's shady, that's not very effective, that, people sell you with a smile on their face, but it's more about them than you. If you're not getting results, what are we going to do? Let's keep working together and figure it out, right? Let's not stop. Let's figure out where are we getting stuck and just keep working it out together. If I'm ever working with someone and, and they're not getting the results, it's not because I'm not showing up. I'm still ready. Let's go. Let's figure out something else. What else can we do? And we'll always figure it out. The cool thing about the group is that if it's the two of us and we're still for some reason getting stuck, well, now you have all these other amazing people that are a part of the group as well. And then nobody's getting stuck, right? We're going to be able to find that momentum that we want because of those
you brought up a good point that I didn't even think about until you just were saying it. And the other thing that you and I bring to the table is that we're not going to sell out on what you think the issue is. If you want to solve a particular problem, if you want to achieve this particular outcome in your life, and you're chasing down a malware guided solution, we're not going to sell out and let you do that. We're going to get to the root cause of it, even if for a minute you hate us. There's some strong reaction there, because we know that we want to help you to see a bigger future than is likely right now, given where you're stuck. And so that's another cool piece of this is that somebody is actually committed to serving you, to sharing with you, to giving you what you need, regardless of whether you think it's what you want or not, to get you what you want, the ultimate what you want.
Yeah, getting angry, getting resentful, getting all pissed off, that's part of mental malware. Now there's nothing wrong with getting angry, but anger usually is covering up hurt, or we're feeling out of control. And because we're feeling like you're not doing it the way that I want you to do it, or the way I think that it needs to be done, that somehow I'm not going to get what I want or what I paid for. It's kind of like the old joke among coaches of people that, people don't really want you to coach them. They just want you to validate the ideas that they had coming in. And a
Right,
lot of
right.
times,
Just tell me I'm right and let me go home. Yeah.
yeah, a lot of times people, um, the stuff that they don't want to work on because they don't think it's relevant is exactly the stuff that needs to be worked on. The people that need the personal development, coaching, and emotional intelligence the most are the ones that aren't interested in it.
Right. Well, and I'm
I don't
also
need
like,
that
I mean,
stuff.
don't get me wrong. This isn't about like talking somebody into it or beating them up until they see it our way. No, this is for people that
No.
are already in alignment, that are willing to do the work necessary. If they have somebody that they can trust, that's going to have their back. I will carry you on my back. Like the survivor thing where your plane crashes in the mountains and you want somebody that is going to carry you wounded home, and they will not let you die on the mountain and freeze to death. That's what we're talking about, is like not leaving you half done, half baked. To give you the true resources to get there. I have so many different stories and experiences that are popping in my head. I just need to shut up now because there's so many that I want to just blurt out and share.
Well, for another time. So we're going to get ready to wrap this up in the next couple of minutes, but we want to thank everybody that's been with us and making the comments. We appreciate you being here. So yeah, that's another reason why another one of the elements is what we've been calling the bat phone, right? Which we have this cool little walkie-talkie unit that we're going to be able to use. And so if you have questions in between the live experiences or while you're working on the discovery materials or, at any time, you also have the ability to be able to message either myself or Joshua or someone else in the group and get real-time, timely feedback on the situation you might be dealing with, instead of thinking, I've known coaches where you cannot talk to them until, Friday from 3 to 3:30 p.m. and that's all you get, and so and I never liked that approach, because what if I have a question now? What if I'm stuck in a situation now? And so the ability to be able to grab your walkie-talkie and say, hey, I got this situation, what do you think? And being able to reach out to anybody in the group or a few people in the group, that's really powerful.
For sure.
And the way that we have it set up, it'll be, laser focused, right? So that you're getting what you need and when you need it. So
Yeah, so you've
really
got the
cool
educational foundational discovery framework. You've got the practical application sessions, which is the in the trenches. That's where the heavy lifting is. And then in between, right? Well, you've got your prosperity program, which is phenomenal, and that's part of the foundational. It kind of bridges between the practical application as well as the discovery zone to bring into the ingredients to bring into the later practical application sessions. And then in the beginning, this is tough. Until you get used to it, it's you're going to feel like a fish out of water. So yes, you're going to want to be able to have timely answers. And for that, you can talk to Tim directly through the bat phone walkie-talkie system, and get that immediate feedback so that you don't have to wait for the later in the week practical application sessions to get it answered. As well as in the beginning, you might say, well, I'm different. I want to hold on. I don't want to, I don't want to share this in front of the whole group. Now that's going to go away fast because, the more that you start to see that we're all the same and we're just showing up in different ways. But in the beginning, we recognize that. So you might want to have a little privacy. And also, there's the private members area where you can be messaging all the time on the information on the both sessions, the discovery stuff as well as the practical application stuff. And so it's very complete throughout the whole journey to serve you to own it, to be able to, be self-certified, to live the life, and to be able to be your own guru, be your own expert for yourself, and truly get the progress that you want and collapse it down to an 8-week period. So that's how we do it. That's the framework.
Brilliant. Just so I'm getting a couple comments here. Hey Jeff, how are you? My buddy from childhood. Good to see you on with us. Yeah. Catherine, she says thank you to all the info, all these 4 days. Good stuff I'll use from now on. Already got to the bottom of a few things. Nice. I mean,
Awesome.
if you're already uncovering some mental malware from the conversations we've been having, good job. That's
Awesome. We'd
awesome.
love to know what that is because that will help us do better.
Yeah, yeah. And anytime you share insights and ahas that you have had, somebody else is going to go, oh my gosh, I never thought of it that way before. Or, wow, I feel like you're describing me.
Right.
And so, that's the power of, having a shared group experience. That's why masterminds are so amazing, right? We're just taking masterminds and we're going to put it on steroids. So, because mastermind groups are run very differently than the way that Joshua and I want to run this group. So, but yeah, that's really awesome. All right. Well, I think that we have covered a lot of amazing material. We're going to send you an email and let you know when we're going to be live streaming again, because we plan on doing these regularly. And we do appreciate you sharing and being a part of this experience, and sharing it with groups and with friends that you have that are ready for an experience like this, or to learn more, about how their mind works. And so we appreciate you being with us today.
Yeah, thank you very much. And please, please, please share with us whatever insights have come, big or small, and challenges. I mean, like if it's like, yeah, that's nice, great. Tell us about that because I want to know what that is and how we can improve. So truly, like this is an evolution and an expansion for us as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We do have our class that's coming up for, what is it, for the I think in a week. We start our first class for March. Yeah, and then so if you're interested in that, you may want to enroll tonight. I think tonight's the last day that we keep the doors open for this class.
Yeah,
And
midnight
so,
Pacific time is when it's programmed to be the cutoff.
okay, cool. So if you want to enroll in that, go ahead. If you have any questions or you want to chat about the stuff that's going on before, feel free to reach out to me or Joshua, and we're happy to chat with you and give you some more details or figure out if it's a good fit. And if not, that's okay too. Maybe down the road, or just continue to join us for our live streams.
Yeah,
And,
we'd love again, we just want to know what's illuminating, what's not, and improve. And
Yeah.
serve our audience better and better so that we can get clearer and clearer ourselves.
Outstanding. All right, wonderful. Well, thanks again, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll talk to you soon.
Sounds great, guys. See ya.